In this lesson, we will look at a new method how to solve quadratic equations. It is called completing the square, in German quadratische Ergänzung. The examples are getting from simple to more difficult, introducing the new method. And the idea is that you try to solve them always on your own and then have a look how it should be solved. So start with example 1, x squared equals 49. Solve that, stop the film, and here comes the solution. Well, take the root, and we get two solutions. x12 equals plus minus the root of 49, which means plus minus 7. Remember, when we take the root to solve an equation, don't forget the plus minus. In other words, the root of 49 is just 7, but when we take the root to solve the equation x squared equals 49, the solutions are two, namely plus 7 and minus 7. And in order not to lose the second solution, the minus 7, we always have to take the plus, to write the plus minus when we take the root in order to solve the equation. Now continue with example 2. Stop the film, and here comes the solution. Again, we take the root, we get x minus 7 equals to the root of 2 with the plus minus in front, and then we add 7 and we get x12 equals to 7 plus minus root of 2. Remember that this is just a short way for writing down the two results, x1 equals 7 plus root of 2 and x2 equals 7 minus the root of 2. So go to example 3, stop the film, and here comes the solution. We take the root again, we find x plus 1 equals to the root of minus 4, and we realize we can't take the root of a negative number, which means we have no solution at all. We could have found directly that there is no solution, just logically, because x plus 1 squared, what do we know about that? Well, we know it is not negative. It is squared, the left-hand side, so it can't be negative, and the right-hand side is negative, so there can't be any solution to it. Next step, look at example 4, solve it, stop the film, and here comes the solution. So first step, we just add the 49, and now we have the same situation as in example 2. So if necessary, you can stop the film here before and continue on your own. Here comes the solution. We take the root, we get x minus 3 equals to plus or minus 7. Then we add 3, so we get x12 equals to 3 plus minus 7. And this is now not a final result, obviously. We have to finalize that. So x1 is 3 plus 7, which is just 10. And x2 is 3 minus 7, which is minus 4. Now solve example 5 on your own. Stop the film, and here comes the solution. We take the root, we get 5x plus 2 equals to plus minus the root of 3, minus 2, we get 5x equals to minus 2 plus minus the root of 3, and the last step, we have to divide by 5. So we get x12 equals to minus 2 plus minus the root of 3 divided by 5. And we typically write that, we can leave it like that, but nicer, it's minus 2/5 plus minus the root of 3 divided by 5. The 5x plus 2 squared up here is a binomial formula, and we will need those binomial formulae, so that's why we're going to quickly repeat them. So what are the three binomial formulae? The first one is a plus b squared equals to something, then a minus b squared, and a plus b times a minus b. Complete the right-hand sides, and you can check, stop the film, and here comes the solution. The third formula, binomial formula, a plus b times a minus b equals a squared minus b squared, is often very useful, but we will not need it in this context here. Only the first two formulae will be relevant. The way in which we will need the binomial formulae is as shown in these examples, as we have already done in the third class, which means we're given, for example, here x squared plus 10x, and now something here is missing, plus or minus something, and then we know on the left hand side we should get in brackets something plus or minus something squared that should be equal to the right hand side. The same applies to the second example. So let us solve the first example. Since we have x squared plus 10x, we can already fill in the complete left-hand side. In order to get the x squared, we have to write at the first empty space in the brackets x. Only in that way we will get x squared in the end. And then, because of the plus 10x, we know what it is about is the first binomial formula, so it's plus 2ab, so we have to write also a plus b squared, so it's a plus in here. And then when we are in the first binomial formula, which doesn't matter first or second, the middle term here, the central term, is 2ab, so it's 2 times a times b, or in this case 2 times x times this has to be 10x here. 2 times x times whatever is missing here is 10x. Well, the x we have already, so this means just 2 times whatever is missing here has to be 10. Or in other words, what we have to do is we have just to divide the 10 by 2. We divide the 10 by 2 and we get the result is 5. Once we have the 5, what we can do is we square now the 5 to get the b squared, which is 25. So we get plus 25. What we've done is here take the 5 and square it. The same with the next example, x squared minus x, so we get x, then we get, because of the minus, we know it will be also a minus here, because of the minus before the minus x. This means we have here minus, then what we actually have here in front of the x is a 1, minus 1. We have to divide that by 2. So what we get is a half. We get x minus 1/2. And again, to get then the last part on the right hand side, what we do is we square it and we get plus 1/4 by squaring. Okay, so let's see what this is good for by looking at the next example. We want to solve the equation x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals to 0. The idea here is, let us first look just at the x squared plus 6x, and let us now look at that as the same problem as the one that we looked at just before. We want to write it somehow just as a binomial formula, assuming that the last part, the constant part, is missing. So to do that, let us leave an empty line, so skip one line, and let us just solve this x squared plus 6x problem. So what do I have to do? I have to write x, obviously, x, then plus something, And what do I need here? Well, it's the 6 divided by 2, so x plus 3 squared. X plus 3 squared we get. Now let's expand that and write that in the line that we skipped, which means we get x squared plus 6x, that has to be, and then plus 9. Now, how do we get from the first line x squared plus 6x plus 4 equals 0? How do we get from there to the next line x squared plus 6x plus 9 on the left hand side? Well, what do we have to do? We have to add on both sides plus 5. So when we add on both sides plus 5, we get x squared plus 6x plus 9 on the left hand side and 5 on the right hand side. Next step is just a Termumformung. So we change the x squared plus 6x plus 9 into x plus 3 squared. And now we are in the situation that we know well, so you can solve it from here on your own. Stop the film, and here comes the solution. We take the root, x plus 3 equals then to plus minus the root of 5, and then we add we subtract 3, and we get two solutions. x12 is minus 3 plus minus the root of 5, and that's the final result. This method applied here is exactly this completing the square method, because what we have done is we took the x squared plus 6x plus 4 and we completed it so that the left hand side became a square, namely x plus 3 squared. By adding the 5 we were able to do that, and from there on we were able to solve the whole equation. So let's look at another example. Try that on your own. Stop the film, and here comes the solution. We skip one line, we write the x squared plus 6x. Because of the x squared plus 6x, we want to write it as squared, so it is x plus 3 again squared, which means when we expand it, we write that one line up, backward, going somehow backward. X squared plus 6x plus 9. Well, what do we have to do to get from the first line to the second line? We have to subtract 1, so we get that the right hand side equals to minus 1. We have a Termumformung, which means just the left hand side is what we wrote before. On the right hand side we still have the minus 1, and what we see now, we can either take the root and get x plus 3 equals to plus minus the root of minus 1, and we see immediately, well, the root of minus 1 does not exist. That's wrong, so that doesn't exist, so we have no solution. The other possibility would be just to see immediately from x plus 3 squared being a squared, it can't be negative, so it was obviously already there. It can't have a solution. Go to example 8 and try to solve that on your own. Stop the film, and here comes the solution. We want to transform the equation here, example 8, into the same form as, for example, in example 7, which means what is disturbing us is the 2x squared, the 2 in front of the x squared. So what we do is just divide by 2. So we get x squared plus x minus 3/4 equals to 0. From here on, we can continue like in examples 6 and 7. You can try it on your own. Here comes the solution. So what we have to do, as we've done all this now, skip a line and just try using the x squared plus x, write it as a binomial formula, as a bracket squared. So the x squared becomes a x because of the plus. We have a plus here and there's plus 1x, so the 1 has to be divided by 2. So we have x plus 1 squared. Now let's expand that and write that in the line above. We get x squared plus 2 times 1/2 x. This means plus 1x and plus 1/2 squared, so plus 1/4. How do we get from this line here? How do we get from that to the next line? Well, the difference is we have to get from -3/4 to plus 1/4, which means we have to add 1. So we add on both sides 1, so the right side becomes 2, 1. Next line we have just a Termumformung. So we get the bottom line and a 1 here on the right hand side. And we take now the root again. And we get x plus 1/2 equals plus minus 1. Now subtracting a half, we get x 1, 2 equals to minus 1/2 plus minus 1, which means we get two results now. x1 equals 1/2, that's minus a half plus 1, and x2 equals minus 3/2, this is minus 1/2 minus 1. The completing the square method consists actually of the following steps. Bring the equation first in the form x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Second step, add something on both sides, so something here, so that you can apply the binomial formula. In the next step, we apply the binomial formula, so we get brackets somehow x plus something squared equals to something. And then we apply the root and we get that x plus the one something equals to plus minus the root of the other something. Now you can apply this method to example 9. What you have to do first is just to expand both sides and then go along this method and solve it. Stop the film. And here you get the solution without any comments.